Hello, this is Tony Kelly, your host of Birmingham's Breakthrough TV, Our Health is Our Wealth show. And I have a special guest in the studio today, Melinda Williams. This is our first time of meeting Melinda. So happy to meet you. It was the TV station's executive producer, Shannon Ricketts, who heard you on New Style Radio, being interviewed by Soca Master. Yeah. And since then, he's seen some of your blogs and he said, Tony, we have to get Melinda Williams on the show. And I've seen some of what you've had. Listeners and viewers, Melinda has a story to tell. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Right. So, I think the best place for us to start is tell the viewers and listeners who haven't a clue who Melinda Williams is a bit about your childhood, your early upbringing.
So my early upbringing, I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, not Tobago. I was born in Trinidad, in Chaguanas, Londonville, and at the age of 8, I came over to the United Kingdom in a place called Newark, which was an all-white area, mainly white with about maybe 5 to 6 black families. So I came over to a totally different culture. But my early upbringing was in Trinidad, which is my best memories because of the country, because of the warmth, the food, walking outside barefoot, totally different culture. Even in the rain, it's hot. And I was living in Trinidad with my mum and my older sister, and we just had my baby sister before we came here. And my dad died, I think, within the 24 hours that my mum got pregnant with me. He died in a horrific car crash. So I was raised by my stepfather, who's an Englishman, and he wanted to return back to England.
Yeah. Wow. I'm that's sad to to know. But here you are. You ended up coming to England with the rest of the family, and you said you were in Newark to start.
Newark-on-Trent, just outside Nottingham. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So take me a bit through schooling. What was schooling like for you?
So for me, when I came here, they thought I was backwards because I think it was a culture change and a culture shock for me. Plus, my upbringing was very difficult because of my there was a lot of violence in the house and it was a rough upbringing, I would say. And plus, coming into the school and coming into the different culture, I really struggled with my academics and integrating that. And I was kept home for the first year in the UK to learn to eat with a knife and fork instead of with a spoon in my hand. Because I'd eat the roti and my food with my hand. So my stepdad would say, no, you can't go to school like that and you need to talk properly, eat properly. So I was almost like English lives a little bit.
All right,
yeah.
I see.
So it was a bit of a difficult transition for me.
I can well appreciate and understand that coming from the Caribbean culture. It's not that we don't use knife and forks to eat there, but it depends on the occasion.
I didn't really want to use knife and fork as a child. So I'd use, because we cook a lot of roti. So you pick up the roti and you pick up your food. And then if you have the rice on your hand, why pick up a spoon and just carry on eating? And I'm just a child as well,
So take us on from schooling then to after leaving school. What happened?
So I went through a bit throughout the schoolhood. School, it was a bit of a trouble because I started to get bullied and I started to get some attacks for being racist attacks. I was called all different names and I didn't know what they meant. I didn't know what gollywog meant. So I'd go home and I'd say thanks to the people. So I'd come home and tell my family because I didn't hear these names, and then they'll say, no, you can't say thanks for that, it's a racist name. I didn't know what racist was, so I got to explain what it was, and I realised there was a lot of racism. And plus I looked like a little boy, so I only had friends who were boys. They didn't know I was a girl until I grew into puberty. So I had it very turbulent. So I had to learn how to defend myself. And where I come from, I remember my mum saying, if you come home crying one more day, I will beat you. So it put me into a tough skin. So I was like, I'm not getting beaten by my mum. I'm going to go and make sure that no one touches me. So I became a tough skin. And sadly, it got me into a lot of trouble, a lot of isolation and exclusion, and expelled at some point. So, and the town was very small. Only had 2 schools to choose from. So I was on the verge of being put out of the school system, but I managed to stay in and I managed to finish,
Now that will probably resonate with some of the younger people listening to this in terms of bullying. What you're saying, Melinda, is really they're not supposed to suffer in silence. They need to be able to speak out.
Speak up. I was suffering in silence and I became the bully. I was being bullied and I became, and a lot of children now get bullied and then they become bullies because they can't speak up. They haven't dealt with what they're going through. And I think the best thing that you can do is speak up about what you're going through, because it can actually change you and get you quite down inside.
And that can happen for especially younger listeners, either if there's a listening ear, one of their teachers at school, or even ringing. There's an organization in Britain called Childline.
Yeah.
They can ring that and,
Yeah.
and speak to somebody in confidence.
And I
Yes.
think it should be used really. That child should say, I want this in confidence, just to get it off the chest, because if you can get something off your chest, it might save you from going through something more or doing something harmful. And I think another thing is, if there's any listeners out there, to pay attention. A lot of teachers gave me a hard time. They didn't realise what I was going through at home, and I was coming to school with a lot of hurt and aggression, and the training was for my family. So I was being taught how to be bad at home. So I was coming to school and I just do what my parents told me to do. Yeah.
And then you also mentioned within the family environment there was domestic violence,
There was a lot of domestic
which you
violence.
were witnessing as well.
Yeah,
So
I
you
was
had it
going
from
through
both.
Yeah, I
both
had it for
ends.
20 years actually. For my first 20 years, I got beaten every day. I got beaten quite severely, and I went through sexual abuse, child abuse, any type of abuse you think about it, I went through it. So it's a miracle that I am here right now. So, but the upbringing was horrific. But I look back and I think I made it. So I made it through. But if there's any young people listening, no one ever told me I was going to grow up, and no one ever told me I was going to be a big person. And if someone had told me that, it would have given me hope. So I always let every child know that I do work with now, one day you're going to be older, one day you're going to make your own decisions.
That's a positive message to get out there. I like it, Melinda. You did touch on it a bit, but I'll still ask it if you want to expand.
Yeah.
What were your initial thoughts on arriving from the sunny island of Trinidad, and coming to what time of the year
I
did you
came
come?
in November.
A freezing cold.
So first and foremost, the only Santa Claus I could remember in Trinidad was a black Santa. So I came over here and there was a big culture, because I came in November and it was like the time when everyone was preparing for Christmas. So I was confused looking and seeing all these posters, because in my head I was like, oh, this Santa used to go around the town in Trinidad on this thing and ring a bell. And I was like, huh? And then I've never known what snow was, and it was snowing, and I was so small. My family used to call me Marga, means very tiny for my age. And the snow was up to my knee, and my skin was burning. Obviously it had gone iced, cold. I was just crying. I went into a depression because it was a culture shock. And then I'd never seen, the only white person I'd seen was my stepfather. So, and there's been there was a lot of Chinese in Trinidad and very few white Trinidadians at the time. So when I came here, I couldn't see the people that looked like me. So it was a big shock. Yeah, it was a shock for me. And the food was, for me, disgusting. So I went into more trauma. I was like, where's my food? I have to eat carrots, cabbage, things I wasn't used to eating in Trinidad, really. Yeah.
Well, at some stage, because I know a bit more about your story, at some stage I think there, Melinda, there's a book inside of you to be written.
Oh, wow, I've
yes,
been told that before.
Yes, well,
I've started writing some chapters.
Your memoirs would make interesting reading, because yes, this will go, this Birmingham Breakthrough TV, Our Health is Our Wealth show, but you've lived a life, and people growing up need to realize, hey, we can turn it around. You're a positive person in that regard. Definitely. Who has turned it around. So think of your book. I'll be in the front. I'll be in the front of the queue wanting an autograph.
Thank you.
Okay. So eventually you leave school. Tell us a bit about what the world of work was like for you. You don't have to go through every job you went through. But,
the first thing that I did when I left school was I got a job in a chocolate factory in Newark, which I wanted to get this job, but then I found out that, looking back now, I had these characteristics that I didn't want to put up with anything that was wrong. So I went into this chocolate factory, and rather than just going in as a new worker, I just always remember some chocolate fell on the floor and they picked it up and the worker put it on the table. And I didn't think, I've got a job. I didn't know the etiquette about job. And I said, you can't do that. That's going into people's food. And I just remember having this strong defence that I went and I complained about it. I found out the policy from a young age. So I knew that there was something in me that was going to stand up. And I risked losing my job. It was my first job. I was getting my pay. And I did lose the job, and because the factory shut down because they came and investigated, and I was like, this is not acceptable, because the chocolate went into the mold again, and I was like, that's been on the floor. I saw it went on the floor. So that was my first experience of a job, and then I'd say I got trained by my family in a certain sense to get into illegal activities. So I got exposed to drugs. I got exposed to the wrong friends as well, who were older, who was also involved in drugs, and not gangs as such, but just in a a bad environment. So even if it came to drug dealing and selling, I was taught from a early age how to do that, and I was being taught by elders, and we learned to respect our elders. So for me, and because of my faith as a child, I was taught to respect my elders because of God and everything.
Just went along.
I just went along with it because I had this innocent in me that I just wanted to respect my elders, so I didn't have that understanding yet.
And I like the word you use there, the innocence and the naivety of, hey, these are adults telling me what to do. Who am I to do otherwise? You know, you're obeying your elders, sort of thing. But yes, I think people listening, especially young people listening into that, need to know the difference between right from wrong, and then go and seek out someone else to say, well, hey, I'm not comfortable with what I'm being asked to do, and so on. But yes, with the benefit of hindsight, we're talking as a child growing up.
I just went into it. Whatever was in my environment, I did, and it was natural. It was. I didn't see it, and I didn't have another environment to compare it to. So
All right. Well, it sort of leads me on to talk a bit more about that in an open and honest way. That sort of not going to necessarily call it gang culture, but
street life.
Street life and being streetwise. What started it? How long did it last for? How old were you? And how did you manage to turn it around?
Yeah, so I went to Nottingham Carnival at the time, which was outside, and Newark was in a town in Nottingham, and there was loads of black people, and it was a carnival, and it was like cultural, and I was like, wow. So I met loads of friends. I was only 15, and my sister was 16, but a lot of the people that we met were older, and we got, at the time we had those big brick phones, so people were exchanging numbers on piece of paper and saying, call me. And unfortunately, two of the people that I was hanging around with were big drug dealers in Nottingham. One was actually saying, he wasn't a big one at the time, he was saying, my aim is to be the biggest drug dealer in Nottingham. I didn't know any better, but these were my friends that I was hanging out with, and a family member found out, and this person had given me a big black bag of weed. And I didn't know about the value of anything because I was still innocent. So the family member found out, said, oh yeah, bring it, you can sell it. So that's how I got involved. So I didn't know about selling it, growing it. It was just a normal environment for me. I went into it normally and naturally, and these people wasn't causing me any harm, so they were my friends. So I didn't see it as a bad thing at the time. Looking back, it opened up a doorway for me to get involved in more and more. And once you get introduced to one person, you get exposed to more and exposed to more,
Right. We're going to move on though, but because I want to know, how did you manage to turn that around?
Okay, so I went on a big journey, and it lasted about 10 years, and I got exposed to a lot of different drugs. I got addicted at some point, alcohol, drugs, and obviously because of the hurt and the pain of the abuse I'd been going through, I must have been numbing in it. Yeah, and not realising it, and been so innocent in this big, bad, black, dark world of darkness. And then eventually I'd moved from one town to another town, and the police had to support me at one point, and I got support from professionals, and they said, is there anywhere in the UK that you can go? And unfortunately I only knew Birmingham because of bad reasons, but I did say I know people in Birmingham. They sent me here, and for a couple of years I got into some more trouble and into some more bad lifestyle choices. But on my path I was put into contact with two support workers who put me in a safe house, and they had faith. And they used to go to the New Testament church, but there was something different about these workers. They didn't just have this professionalism about them. They saw me as a person, and they would always say good things to me, like, there's something about you. God's hand is on you. And I was like, huh? Me? Me? I've been fighting, I've been headbutting, I've been kicking, I've been doing this, I've been drinking, I've been going on bad. But they always spoke, they saw beyond what I was saying to them and what they know about me. And they even invited me to church. They said, well, we're not forcing this on you, but if you ever want to do anything outside, this is a church we go to, or feel free, it might benefit you, because you're always talking about God and your Sunday school and stuff. It was always in me. And I took it up. I went, even though I was struggling with drink and everything, and what my real struggle, I still went, and I took my children to church. And as I sat there, I started to just get healed, and just positive words. I never heard of these positive words before, and I never had people tell me, oh, there's something special about you. And these two women, they're still in my life now, and I'm really thankful for them. And they really spoken to me, and they helped me get on that right path. And then then I went on to college, and I started to get my GCSEs back and stuff. And they helped me to get, what do you want to do? What have you always wanted to do? They just asked me, and I said, I want to do this. So yeah, it was a big transition, and I went with no friends for a point in time, but I went into education and started to learn and train.
All right, so education the first time around wasn't all that good, but here you are going back into it, and then you eventually from my understanding, became a nurse. So you went and did your GCSEs.
It was an access course.
You did an access course, right? And you got your qualifications, which led you into what type of nursing?
It was Birmingham City University, and no one in my family had been to university, let alone finish college. So for me to do, I never knew what it was. But I went to Bourneville College and then to Birmingham City University to study adult nursing. I did want to do children, but someone said it's hard to get onto. I wish I'd just gone for it straight away because it's very difficult to go back and retrain. And that was in 2006 I started my studies, and 2008 I went into university. So I only left school with 2 GCSEs. So if anyone is watching that needs to be encouraged, and there is a lot of people going through GCSEs this year that are not going to get to sit them because of the COVID and the pandemic. Just need to know that there is hope, because you can later change it around. And I say to my own daughter, don't worry about it, she's in her GCSE year. I said I only left with 2, and I went back and I got what I needed to get into university. So yeah, it was a big challenge because I didn't know I was dyslexic either until I went to uni.
Right.
Yeah.
So you finished the course and graduated as an adult nurse.
Yeah.
And where did you then?
That was in 2011. I graduated as an adult nurse. I did feel disappointed for some reason with my graduation because I didn't understand the massiveness of it, or where I was out of my depth from what I came from and what I was going into the professional lifestyle. I went into the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and I remember praying and saying, I've got these 2 young children and I've gone through all this university and they're missing out on me. I really want a 9-to-5 job, and all my nursing jobs were long shifts, night shifts. I got my interview, and it was a big mass interview, and then they said, where do you want to work? And I said, I'll go on the facial Max Factor ward for facial surgery. And my paperwork was delayed, and one of the other nurses got the job, and they said, oh, Melinda, all the wards and everything is gone now. And they called me and I said, so what's going to happen to me? They said, you're going to have to work in outpatients, but it's normally for older nurses who've damaged their back and stuff. And I was like, oh. I said, what time is it? And they said it's going to be between 8 and 6, 9 to 5. So
that fitted into your pattern. Yeah.
And I said, oh. I remember telling my manager, I said, I prayed about this. And she said, you prayed about it? I said, I prayed about this because my children have missed out on so much of my time, and I'm a single mom. And I was like, thank you, God. And I didn't think it was a bad thing. For me, I went in to become an outpatient nurse. It was something that I loved to do, yeah.
Now, when you said thank you, God, it reminds me of this phrase. People say God not sleeping. Yeah. I say God no wear pajamas, no nighty. Okay?
I like that.
I use it all the time when people say, they like it. You mentioned, we'll talk a bit more about the nursing, but you've gone on to mention 2 children. How are they, and where are they at?
I've got a daughter who's going to be 16 tomorrow, and I've got a son. So my daughter's Amelia Tiger Gucci Williams, and I've got my son Wesley. Nickname is Simba. He's 20, and he's at Brunel's University at the moment. So he got a triple distinction in his sixth form, and he went in.
And what's he studying?
He's studying sports business. So he's doing that, and my daughter's on her GCSE year this year. So
So those are the 2 people in your life, 1 son and 1 daughter. And then you started working at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in the outpatient department. 2011. And how long did you do that for? Or did you move on to other hospitals?
So I worked in, it was Selly Oak, and it became the QE within that 1 year, because that's when they was just launching the QE. So I worked there till the 2012 because I had so many patients ask me if I would pray for them. And as a nurse, you can't. So I had to say to them, no, I can't. I'll pray later. And then it cut on me because I thought my life has consisted of prayer because of the abuse and everything. I really prayed as a child, and it got me through. And the thing that's most valuable to me, I couldn't share it as a nurse. So in 2012, August, I was wrestling, and I just had to write my resignation. And I was going through a struggle with my children's dad through a court case. And I thought, I can't do both, and I can't represent myself in court, which I had to. And I just talked to the manager at the time who I had, and she said, "You're just gonna go and preach the gospel and represent yourself in court. You're gonna be fine. You're not gonna be working as a nurse, are you?" I said, "No." She said, "Go," and she gave me a hug. She said, "All you've done in this outpatient department is preach the gospel. Everything that you do and you say." She said, "It's just around you. You just that's what you bring." And she just told me, she goes, "We can see it in you." And then I quit, and it was a big heart thing. Everyone was saying, "You've just qualified to be a nurse. You went through so much hassle with your background to get this far." And I said, "But this is not important to me right now. My faith has kept me, and my children, I need to go and defend whatever was going on in my life." And I quit, and I didn't go back to nursing for about 3.5 years.
Right. Yeah. And in that time you were there spreading the gospel.
I'd spread the gospel. I went to this pastor at a church in Nechells, Birmingham Victory Centre, and I spoke to Pastor Devon and I said, can I come and can I do some prayers? And we just connected and he let me pray in the church, and we opened up the church on a Thursday and we did outreach for about a year. It was amazing. People came broken with mental health, on drugs, all sorts of issues, and we really did some work with them. And for me, it was a joy. So I managed to do it one day a week whilst dealing with all the other issues that I had in my life, but I managed to just experience something else other than working as a nurse.
And I suppose what made it so special was because you've been there, done it, worn the t-shirt. There's nobody better able to relate.
That's what people said to me as well. They said, whether it's a man, you've had encounters with the men in the criminal industry, you've had encounters with being a child, a woman who's been in abuse. So I was able to connect with everyone, and it was
That's why there's a book in there to make people that there's hope. Life springs, hope springs eternal. There's life at the end of the tunnel. So that book is coming. I will insist. Now I've met you. You don't know me.
Thank you, Tony.
No, but on a serious note, there's a lot that you can tell young people who are listening and viewing and watching this program who need to know, hey, it's there's light at the end of the tunnel. You're living proof of that, which is why we catapulted you into the studio quickly.
I know, it was quick time.
Yes, from the moment I heard, and Shannon, the producer here, said, hey, you've got to get Melinda on. I thought, I have to, because we're coming into some meatier stuff now, as if that wasn't meatier enough. All right, Melinda, does one have to go into nursing? We see all these nurses, men and women on the wards and in the community and so on. People listening might want to think of this as a career. Do they need to do some voluntary work beforehand?
Voluntary work can help, having some experience in care, whether you're a healthcare assistant, but also if you've got a family member that is not well and you're able-bodied and you're able to help, go and help that family member, go and do the care, go and do the cleansing and whatever personal needs that they've got, help them with that, because that will give you experience as well. My son was epileptic when he was little, till the age of 12, and he'd have night seizures, and so I had a big experience of looking after my son. And also my mum was diabetic as well, and she had no feelings in her feet, so I'd always wrap her bandages and if she had any cuts and stuff.
Right, so
I had
first-hand experience.
Yeah, so they asked me, and my grandma, I only ever knew my grandma with a stroke. She had a stroke at the age of 40, and she one side, and she was my main carer in Trinidad. So I was her carer.
Yeah, so you were ideal you were cut out for this.
So it was naturally in me, and they took that in the interview at the university. You have to do a personal statement and say who you are, have you got the characteristics, and then they just asked me a question and I shared. I ended up crying and everything, but they just gave me a hug. They said, we're letting you know you've got into university. You've got the perfect heart for it.
It's the University of Life. It's a life experience, not just the theory and the academic and so on. The two.
Because I felt out of depth because I didn't feel I had enough of it, my academics. But I knew that I was a caring person.
Before I move on to the next question, I'll just tell you a little story where I have a friend, very good friend of the family. She wanted to do nursing. But she doesn't like blood at all. She has this fear of blood. So instead she went into social work.
Oh, did she?
Yes, but...
how is she finding that?
No, she's enjoying that. She's coming to the end of her social work career as well. I now want to give you some space and time, because this was what impacted upon me a lot, Melinda. Earlier this year, there's an issue around COVID-19 and the coronavirus. Melinda, the floor is yours. Tell us about that.
Okay, so on the 29th of February, I remember I was going to a conference, relationship conference that the church was doing in Oldbury, and I took my daughter to McDonald's in the morning. I'll share the photos with you as well. And I was looking fine, probably look how I look today. And then I dropped her home. She didn't want to come to the conference. It's one of the all-day things, and she thought it was boring. So I went, and then this started at 10:30, and around between 10:30 and 11:30, I started to feel some pain in my leg. And I know for the beginning part of the year, while I was at work, I had to buy some Anodin, which I don't like to take. I like to make sure I do everything healthy if I can. So I had some Anodin in my bag, a full pack near enough, and I thought, I'm going to have to take some tablets while I'm in church, or I'm going to just pray for myself. So I prayed. Normally it tends to work and only get relaxed, and thank you God, but no, the pain was there, and I thought this is more like when I've got tonsillitis. So in the past when I've had tonsillitis, I've actually ended up bedridden for 3 days when I couldn't get out of bed. So my body's really been broken down. My legs, everything hurt. My body hurt. I can't remember who's come in my bedroom, who hasn't. It started to feel like that. And the other thing it reminded me of is when I had Campylobacter in 2013, food poisoning, and I ended up in hospital on a drip. So my body broke down really badly and quickly. So I said, oh, this reminds me of these 2 times, so it can't be good. So I took the Anodin, and I ended up taking the whole pack of Anodin throughout the whole day. It didn't go. And I was rubbing my leg. I couldn't, in church, I don't know if you've been to church, but in church they expect you to stand up and sing or pray.
Yes.
I couldn't. And I felt embarrassed because I sat at the front. So I was like, oh no, they're going to think this young person is just being rebellious. She can't stand up. But I really couldn't. I was like, it's hurting. And they called people for prayer. I went to the front, and by the time I'd gone for the front for prayer, I started to shiver like it's cold. And it was very windy on the 29th of February. Anyway, it was very breezy outside. I said bye to my friend, and I went out to the car. I just bought this new car, and I wanted it to be a warm car because my old car wasn't working with the heat. And I turned the heat up, and I couldn't get warm. I just remember I couldn't get warm, and I thought, oh, this Mini, I'm going to take it back. I can't get warm. And as I drove around Oldbury, I went round and roundabout once, round and roundabout again. I couldn't think. I was losing my faculty. I couldn't remember how to get my turn in round and roundabout. I always drive round. So I just kept going round and round and roundabout. And then eventually I went, and I called my daughter on the car phone, and I said, when I get outside, meet me at the door because I'm feeling extremely ill very quickly. Like when I had food poisoning, and that time she was with me. She was only about 8 or 7.
Okay.
She had to take me into the house then. So when she heard that, she's like, you sure, Mom? I said, I'm telling you now, I'm not feeling well. And I managed just to pull up the car because I thought I was going to have to stop the car because my body was like this. Something was in my body, and I was feeling it through my bones and through my blood and everywhere. And I was like, oh, I'm in pain. It was just like a shutdown. And then I phoned her and I said, I'm outside, can you come and get my handbag? I couldn't reach to get my handbag. Everything just felt painful, and my skin felt sore and burning, like fever. And she got, and she goes, oh, what's wrong with you? And I was like, really shaking. So she got me out the car and walked me to the door, and then she had to walk me upstairs. She had to take my clothes off and get me undressed. I said, I've got to take my clothes off. I said, I need to get in bed. I just need to get in bed. I just wanted to lie down. So she put my fleece pyjamas on, which I can't normally sleep on because they're too thick. But it wasn't warming me. She put the fleece pyjamas in, and I put 3 covers on me, and I got into bed. And then she walked in the room, and I think it must have been, but that was about 8 p.m, around 10:30. She said, Mum, I'm going to call Auntie Sab. And I said, why? She said, I don't think I can look after you this time. And I said, no, I'm fine. But we checked my temperature when I got in, and it was 35.5, so it was low, not high. Whereas with virus and stuff, you get a high temperature. Mine was 35.5, and I've got 2 thermometers, and it was the same on both. So I was like, oh, my temperature's fine, so I'm okay. In my head, because I am a nurse, I was thinking, it's not high. You're okay, just sleep it off. And then at 10:30 when I woke up, she's like on the phone. She's like, Mum. And then I was like, and she was calling my best friend and her godmum, and she was saying, can you come? And when she said, I'll even pay for your taxi if I have to. So when she said that, I thought, oh God, am I that well? I'm not that unwell that she's offering to pay her pocket money for my friend, because my friend doesn't drive. Well, she does now, thank God. But at the time she didn't. I thought, oh gosh, she's asking that. That's all I remember. And then I can't remember anything else. I drifted off into sleep. And then I think it was like 3 or 4 a.m. It was early hours. There was 3 paramedics in my room, female ones, and they were stripping my clothes. And I was like in and out of sleep. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm freezing. What are you doing? I remember shouting at them. I was like, you're being cruel. Get out my room, because I was so cold, and they were taking my clothes off me. And they said, we have to open the window. We have to take your clothes off. Your temperature's 39.5. Any hotter, and we're gonna have to take you to the hospital. I said, I ain't going to the hospital because I work in them already. I've seen how it is in hospital, and I don't want to go to the hospital to be a patient. So they said, well, you're gonna have to let us strip you. So they said, we're gonna strip you to your vest and your knickers. And I was like, don't do this. And they said, we're gonna have to peel back the blanket, and we're gonna have to stay with you till you get your temperature down. And then they were asking me questions, but I couldn't really answer them. And they were saying, have you been to China? Have you been to here? Have you been anywhere that's got COVID? And I was like, no. And I was trying to let them know I was doing an interim job of working in a car place, manufacturers that do go send parts to China. But I was trying to, I said, I haven't been in contact with anyone like that. So they said, it's fine, you don't hit the criteria, you just probably got like a infection or just a 24-hour bug. Go and see your doctor tomorrow. And they stayed with me until my temperature went down, gave me a print off, and they told my friend to keep the window open, the blankets off me, my vest and knickers, and if my temperature rise back up, to phone NHS 111 again. So that was fine. And then in the morning I woke up and I wasn't looking well at all. I looked totally unwell. Like, my daughter had taken photos. We do take photos and do videos and stuff.
Yes, I've seen some of the photos, and you looked horrible, if I can say so myself. Yes.
I didn't see those until after I'd got better, so I didn't see any of this. She was taking on my phone and her phone, so I can't remember. And then
and I have to big up your daughter for doing that, because that's the before and after, which was there's the proof. Yes,
So on the Sunday I stayed in bed because I couldn't get through to my GP. So I remember staying in bed, and my friend said, "I'm going to leave you now. Your temperature's gone," and I kept trying my best to keep it down. And then she went home, and then the Monday morning I phoned the GP and I said, "Yeah, we've got your details," because the NHS had sent it through. So I went to see my GP, and as I went into the GP, as I was walking to the GP, I developed a little nothing much, just a cough, but it was coming every so often. So I was like, "Oh God, I'll get some water." But I wasn't thinking, "Oh, I've got COVID, I've got this," because everyone was saying, "Oh, you haven't got this, you haven't got that," because you've not been exposed to it. You might just have a chest infection or something coming. But it wasn't anything to think about. But I did take tea. I just grabbed a tea towel before I went, and I put it around my face because I thought, I don't want to breathe in anything, and I don't want anyone to breathe anything.
Yes.
I didn't have a mask at the time, so I just made my own with a tea towel. So as I walked in, and I had gloves on because I've got nursing gloves and stuff, I just don't want to go and get any infection or anything. As we went in, me and my daughter sat there, and as I went into the office of the doctor, he called me in. He didn't even check my date of birth or my details, my credentials to make sure it was myself. He called Melinda Williams, and I went in, and I coughed, and he's like, "Oh, how long have you had that cough for?" And I said, "Well, I was telling him about the ambulance and that they came out, and I've gone through this. They've told me to come to you because I've developing this cough, and I might need some antibiotics or something because of how unwell I was." And he's like, no, you need to come out. And then he was asking me if I've been to China and stuff. And I was trying to tell him what I do. And he's like, no, you need to come out now. Come out. Quick, out. And I was like, wow. And I was like, out? And I was like, this is bad. I said, this is not good. I'm going to call the PALS when I finish it, which is the patient's complaints department. And I was thinking, no. If I was a nurse or a doctor talking to a patient like this is not acceptable. So get out. You go in this office right now. Go in this room. And he kept my daughter in the room. He said, no, you sit there. No, you're coughing. No, you've got to stay there. Excuse me, even if I do the accent, I can't help it. So but he was just telling me to stay in this room. And I went in the room and I sat down. I thought, God, all this stuff that's been flying around the TV and stuff. And then he's telling me to be in here. He's trying to quarantine me. So all this stuff started to go through my head. And I was like, I don't trust what's going on because no one knows what's going on. And they haven't got no protocols to follow. So I was like, I'm going to go in a minute. And then a nurse opened the door. She said, "You've come into our surgery and you've brought COVID, haven't you? You've done that. And I've got children." She started to shout at me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not feeling well. What about me? I'm not feeling well here. I've come here for help. You don't even know my name, my date of birth. You haven't checked, and you've opened the door to tell me this. And I can hear that the doctor was telling her what happened, and she came in. So that wasn't nice. And then she went in and she was talking to the doctor saying, "Oh no, I've got children. I don't want this. She needs to get out. We need to get rid of her." And then, "Why have you got her daughter in?" And then they opened the door and they said, "You get in there as well." And I was like, my daughter was like, "Phew." And then my daughter was getting angry. "Mom, they think you've got COVID. Did you tell them you've got COVID?" I said, "No, I didn't." She said, "Well, we're being mistreated because of you." So my daughter was like, I said, "I don't know what's going on." And then my phone kept ringing and it was unknown number. So I hung up. I thought, because I'm at the doctor's, I don't want to get interrupted. So I hung up. And it rang 9 times, or I can't remember, it just rang. My daughter went, "Answer it," because obviously someone needs to get through to you. I was like, "Oh, but it's not the school. She's with me. I know where my son is, so I'm quite okay. I don't normally take emergency calls unless it's to do with my children." So I took the call, and it was the doctor from the room next door. And he was like, "Melinda," and I can hear him. He didn't even need to be on the phone. Really? He's calling me from the next room on the phone on my mobile, and he's talking loud. "You need to stay in there and you need to phone NHS 111. I said, "I phoned NHS 111 Saturday, well, my daughter did and my friend did. And the ambulance came out early Sunday morning and they told me to come and see you as soon as possible. That's why I'm here." No, you need to do this. I said, "I'm not staying here for you to talk to me like this." I said, "How you spoken to me is not acceptable." I said, "You've not even checked my date of birth and we're having this argument." No, Melinda, you need to stay in this room." And I was like, "I'm not staying in this room. I haven't come here to be put in a room." I said, "You've not checked me." I said, "I need antibiotics or something. I quite clearly don't feel well. I know my own body and I've been ill before." And normally my other doctor would say, "You've got tonsillitis. You know yourself. You've had it 6-7 times in 1 year. Here's the antibiotics. Go home. Take care of yourself." This doctor didn't check nothing. And I was so shocked. I said to my daughter, I'm going. My daughter was like, oh my God, he's going to lock the door. He's going to lock, because we didn't know what was going on. So I said, I'm not staying here, doctor. I said, I'm leaving. And he was shouting on that for Melinda. So I just got up I remember walking up on my way. I said, I'm leaving now. You're not going to speak to me like this. And you guys don't know what's going on. I said, you need to sort out yourself. I said, I came, it's almost like it was an argument, but I can hear him and everyone else could probably hear us. And he was shouting, Melinda, you come back. You don't leave this room. You don't. And I just walked out, got in my car and I drove home. So I never got seen. I got delayed treatment. So, yeah.
But that's astonishing that anybody, the level of care. Because let's just get this right. This happened back in February.
29th of February. So
right.
I don't know how many
But we didn't go down in lockdown until the 24th of March.
So yeah, so this was the beginning of March now when I went to see him. I think they said,
right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the fear factor and the scared and so on. But nurses and doctors, in terms of, have a duty of care, and it should have been. Well. Yeah, and you as a nurse would know the standard of treatment and care.
Duty of care to see me,
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
It's just almost as if you're a leper, leprosy.
Yeah, that's exactly how, like, scorned.
Yes.
Yeah. Scorn on my.
So take us through after that. What happened next? Because normally I'd be asking lots of questions, but I'd rather you just. Yeah. In your own style. So you got back home.
We drove back home and my daughter was like, what are you going to do now? I said, well, I'm not going back to that doctor. No way. I'm not going back at all. I'm not phoning them. So because obviously you feel let down because I've already had the ambulance out. We phone NHS 111. They've told me what to do. You normally take the advice and then this has failed. So I started to scan the house to see if I've got any antibiotics from before, any of the children, any medicine that I can find, scan my medicine cupboard to see if I can find anything, because the cough from going there had developed more within a short space of time. I'm talking hours. So I went from a little to a little and I thought, no, this is rapid. And I've not really thought that I've had a cough in England since I was a child. Even though my immune system was low, I've not had many coughs at all because I know it. So I know I must have had 1 or 2 coughs in my whole life being in England. I'm not one to get coughs. So I said, this is definitely developing as a cough, and I know it. So I had Benylin cough medicine and another one, a drowsy one, already in the house. I tried to keep a medical kit. So I said, I'm not going to the GP. And I know as I got into bed, I just started to cough. And I started to cough. This was the beginning of March. And I think I lived in my bed for, 2 weeks. So I started to cough, and I can't remember. The days became a merge. My friend, my daughter phoned a friend of mine, because not many people were willing to come out there because people were being a bit cautious with what's on the news. But I couldn't cook. I couldn't remember cooking for my daughter. My friend came from Wolverhampton, and she was at risk also because of health issues, but she didn't care about it. She came to take care of make sure that my daughter was fed and stuff, and she just came. She cooked, made sure she cooked some lovely Zimbabwean food that we love to eat, and she made sure there was enough to the last few days and for my daughter, and she stayed. Apparently she sat on my bed talking to me, and I can't remember. She brought tea up. I can't remember because this cough came, and the cough had come so bad. I'm telling you, I was coughing. It started with to every breath, to a difficult cough, clear, and it just progressed. And this 10 days was a bit of a daze and a haze. And my daughter likes to go to youth group, and I normally take them to places. So remember, it wasn't on lockdown yet. She's like, I'm going to miss out on youth group. I'm going to miss out on this. I'm going to miss out on things that I really think help youth. There's youth groups and stuff. There's not many of them going on. So I have got her involved. And she went to church in the morning with the church van. She arranged with the pastor and stuff to get picked up with the youth people. She came back, and I was still in bed at 5. So from 9 till 5, I had not moved, not even to go to the toilet. And I was just lying flat going, and she said, Mum, you've been in bed all day doing this. I said, I'm running out of energy.
I was just about to say your energy must by now have been sapped. Well and truly.
So I was coughing. But at one point in those 10 or 15 days, however long it was, I was on all fours coughing with every breath. It's almost like I was making my lungs breathe. I was forcing it with every breath of cough. And my other friend who came said, I've never seen nothing like it before. It was horrendous. You were forcing yourself to breathe by a cough. I kept saying to her, I've got this horrible cough, but I was forcing myself to breathe. So I ran out of energy, and I just managed to get downstairs, and she just looked at me, my daughter, and got an instant migraine. She suffers from migraines when she's stressed, but I think what she saw then, she went, I've got a migraine coming. So she lay on the sofa, I put a blanket on, and I was like, I'm feeling so weak now. So I said, you know what, let me phone NHS 111 because it's gone on now 10, 14 days. And then I thought, my God, you've been lying on the bed just coughing non-stop. You've hardly eaten. You've not drank anything. I had a bottle of Benylin in one day. That's overdosing on cough medicine. I was taking a bottle a day for cough medicine. I said, no, come on, you're a nurse. Look what you've done. This is bad. So I phoned NHS 111 and they said, we're going to put you straight through. So I said, oh, it must be serious. I actually worked for the NHS 111. So I actually know what was going on. And I said, this is serious. So when I got connected to the doctor, he said straight away, he goes, you don't need to say anymore. He goes, you need to get yourself to the closest A&E possible. He goes, this is how you've been for how many days? And he goes, no, I think you might have pneumonia. Just by listening on the phone. I don't think they're meant to give that judgment on the phone. But he was telling me the serious. Anyone back in the day heard any family member that had pneumonia, you'll be like, I'll be praying for them because it was such a serious thing to have back then. So I said, pneumonia? And when he said it, I said, oh, my daughter's gone to... He said, no, he goes, go to the hospital. I said, oh, is she going to be okay? I said, well, she's sleeping. So I just told her, woke her, I said, I've got to go to the hospital now just to go and get checked out. To the walking clinic, he said, go to the closest thing, which was a walking clinic in Dudley Road. So I went and they said, we can't see, we've had an emergency, can you go to City Hospital? So I said, oh, okay. And then we go to City Hospital, went to City Hospital, and they said, you're going to go and see the doctor. And that was a whole repeat of experience of what I had at my GP practice.
Wow.
So when I did go, this doctor did scorn me as well because I saw that he was touching the patient and stuff. I said, I'm going to ask him to wash his hand before he sees me. I don't think he's had time because I'm a bit OCD sometimes. So I said to him, can you wash your hand, please, doctor, before you examine me and touch me? And he said, no, I should be asking you to wash your hands. And he didn't know at the time I had just finished working for the same hospital.
Right.
Yeah,
yes,
so,
this is the beauty of you. Because you were a nurse and you know the ins and outs of cleanliness and hygiene and so on, it's a pity one couldn't have captured all of that.
You should have been doing that already.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're meant to wash your hands before each patient. You're meant to do this, but I watched him and I observed and I thought, he needs to do this. And I worked for the same trust. So when I said it to him, he said, I should be asking you to wash your hands. I said, no. I said, well, don't do any examination. I said, just because I'm coughing and stuff, and I have gloves on and everything, but I didn't want him to touch me because he just touched another patient. And he just, as he said bye to another patient, he called another one in. So he wasn't having enough time.
Right. Cross-contamination.
Yeah.
The phrase, trust me, I'm a doctor, springs to mind here. So when were you actually diagnosed as having...
So when I went into City then, the doctor said, you're going to have to go upstairs and then you're going to have to get an x-ray. You're not going anywhere. We can hear it on your chest. You've got pneumonia. Right. And I was like, well, I've left my daughter. They put me on AMU and it was chaotic. The staff were in panic mode. They ran off when I came on because I was coughing so much. Every month they were like, oh, she's got COVID. I was like, I haven't got COVID. No one's told me I've got COVID. I've just got a chest infection. I've got pneumonia. They was like, no. They threw a mask on me and told me to put it on. And I was like, I'm not staying here. They put the Venfil on wrong in my hand. I obviously can take blood myself. It was swelling. I was trying to tell them, but I didn't tell them I was a nurse at no point at that time.
Right. I like that approach.
I did not tell him. I didn't want to say I'm a nurse. You've got it in the wrong vein. I just was trying to be a patient. I can hear the other patients were being given the same treatment as me, and I was thinking, oh my God, I was going into nurse defend mode for the patients. So it was a bit tormenting for me. And then the doctor came and goes, you have got pneumonia. The x-rays come up that you've got pneumonia. I said, so I haven't got COVID? He went, no, you haven't. Obviously, you've not been next to it. You don't fit the criteria. Yeah, right. They were just looking at criteria. Yeah. So I said, oh, okay then, because you just hear that you haven't. You don't think, oh, this is the symptoms. I've got it. And these doctors and these nurses were very panicky at the time. And then I said, can I go home? I said, I don't want to stay here. He goes, well, you've got pneumonia. I said, I'm not staying here. I said, you've got this wrong. Everything's gone. I want to go home. He said, do you promise to take the antibiotics? And can you take... So he gave me antibiotics. And then he said, we're going to give you a full course. And when you finish that, if it doesn't clear up, go back to your doctor, get a repeat prescription. In total, I was on 3 courses of antibiotics because it didn't work. But I went home. I was glad to go home. And then on the 19th of March, which was my 40th birthday, I sort of pulled myself together. My daughter did my extension and stuff, and we did a little YouTube video together. And I was like, yeah. And she was laughing about it. She goes, they thought my mum had COVID, but she hasn't. She hasn't got
yes,
COVID.
I saw that.
Yeah. And she was like taking funny videos and stuff. And I thought, yeah, you haven't got it. And I was like, they thought I did on my 40th. So we did this video not knowing that I actually had COVID. And then on the 20th now, I had developed a pain on my chest. And it was like a crushing pain. I was like, oh my gosh, what's this? Maybe it's all the coughing. And I phoned NHS 111 again, and they said, well, all that coughing that you were going through and that you've been doing, it may have cracked a rib. And I was like, well, the pain is bad. And then it was getting bad. And then on the Saturday now, I called an ambulance. No, they sent an ambulance. They said, we need to come and check out your chest just in case we might have to take you in. So the ambulance came in. But when these paramedics came in, they were very young. They was probably my son's age. I felt sorry for them. So I felt like I needed to reassure them and comfort them as a mom. It's okay, you're doing a good job out there. You can see that they were petrified with what they were seeing. I can see it all over them. So I felt like a bit torn from being a patient and needing help to like comforting these young people. So they did spend quite a long time, and I did say to them, I said, people are praying for you as paramedics and people are really rooting for you. You're facing something that we've not seen before. So I was remembering that from the day. And then they did all the ECG and everything. They said, you're not having it's nothing to do with your heart. It must be because of the coughing and everything. Are you sure you've not got COVID? I said, no. They said, that happened. And I said, oh, well, all your symptoms. So I said, no. And then they was like, okay, if it does happen, if you get any difficulty breathing, call NHS 11 again. This went another week now, the following week. And I thought, I can't breathe properly. And then it came for the whole day. I didn't want to panic my daughter because I thought my daughter was so great. She kept doing funny videos, funny things. She was bubbly. She was cheeky. She kept me distracted, even though I was in and out.
Right.
Not once did she look at me and say, oh, I don't think you're going to make it. But she said to me that's what she was thinking. She didn't make that to me. She kept it going. She's like, hi, Mom. And then her face, she must have gone out the room thinking, oh, my God. And she told her friends as well, I'm not sure if Mum's going to make it. So I wasn't seeing this. And my two friends who dropped food outside my door, when they saw me, they thought I wasn't going to make it, but they didn't tell me either because I couldn't tell how I looked.
So in all these visits to medical places, etc., my understanding, the little I do know about the coronavirus and COVID, you put the swab up the person's nose and also at the back of the throat.
I didn't have one done since then. I got delayed. I got neglected in care.
So they're saying you don't have COVID, you probably have it, this, that, and the other.
But they were saying you haven't got it, and I didn't get
why didn't they do the test? The simple thing would have been to do tests through the nostrils and the back of the throat.
Then they did a test after that, and the test went missing, the results.
Oh, Lord.
So up to now, I haven't got those first results back, and they don't know where those tests is. So I was like, that's not good. You've misplaced my test. You've put that thing up my nose, and I was questioning, why are you putting the same swab up my nose and the same swab that goes to the back of my throat? When we do the MRSA, it's one swab, and then another swab.
Yes, it has to be.
And this man,
I know that.
And the man on the television who was on a cruise ship, who was doing the swabs, who was Channel 3 did a interview on him. He said that they do separate swabs on his nostrils, and one nostril came back COVID positive and one didn't.
Wow.
So I had all of this in mind because I'd watched his interview and I thought, okay, so why are they not testing me like that, man? Then because maybe it's living in one nostril and not the next. So that went into mind, and the test had gone missing. So don't worry about it. If it was positive, they would have found it and they would have given you the details. But in all that time, the Friday now, the following week, I just couldn't breathe. I was yawning, and I know that your body goes into the yawning mechanism when you can't take a full breath. So not because you're tired. I was like, so I was yawning and yawning and yawning. My daughter said, why are you yawning so much? So I was yawning so much that I couldn't breathe. I had to get up and walk, and I was stretching my body and stretching my arm up, and I was trying to really open my lungs. And I knew in my head as a nurse, you're trying to make yourself breathe. You can't take a full capacity in. And then I sat down, and then I sneezed. And I felt I was going to die because the pain was like, and I was like, I can't breathe. And I sneezed again, and then I got hiccups, and then I was like, oh, I can't breathe. The pain was so traumatic to my chest and my breathing that it restricted me, that I called my daughter, I texted and I said, come down and call 999 now. I didn't phone NHS 11, I just couldn't breathe. Wow. And she said, my mum can't breathe. And the ambulance came straight away, probably because they'd seen I was on the system probably for a few times. So they came and they said, how long have you been in the house? And the ambulance crew was saying, well, you've been in the house. We've been going to houses and we tell people to isolate for 14 days because all your symptoms are COVID symptoms. And he said, well, you don't fit the criterion. We've been told to tell you to isolate. We're going to have to phone the station. What do we do with you?
Right.
And then he said, he goes, I'm afraid we're going to have to take you in, and we're going to have to take you into a COVID section. He said, because your symptoms are COVID consistent, you've also been isolating, and we think you might be getting it again. I was like, again? What? I said, I didn't told I had it in the first place. And he said, he was telling me it's going to be called red or hot or dirty. And I said, you can't tell me a ward's called dirty and I'm a nurse. I told him straight away, I am a nurse. I said, so if you tell me you're taking me to a dirty section of the ward, I said, I'm going to complain straight away. I said, that's not right. He said, that's the terminology the healthcare systems were
I see.
using. I said, well, you can switch that off now because I don't want to be told that. I said, because of the cleanliness and stuff. He said, it means COVID. I said, okay. So they took me into the ambulance crew were more mature than the first, more advanced, and they knew their thing. So I was like, so I did have to say to him, don't make me laugh because you're making me laugh and I can't.
Yes, I can't.
He was obviously, one of them was really funny. Any other day I would have loved to have been in a situation with that
I thought
paramedic.
laughter is the best medicine.
It is
Not
for
in
me.
this- not
It
in
is
this
for me, but
circumstances.
it is for me,
Yes.
and that's what my daughter was doing. But with the restriction, I said to him, I normally love to laugh. I said, but you can't. And I was saying to him, my breast is hurting. It's like I've got a tight bra, and he's like, well, we won't know what it's like because there's two men because we don't wear bras. And I was like, please stop. And I really was like holding my breath because if I breathe out, it was like gonna pop or something. I said, this is difficult. He said, they came in. I said, I don't want oxygen. I said, I was just scared of taking anything from them. So I was just trying to calm down and pray. And he's like, you're praying, you've got faith. And I was like, yep. I said, I need to get myself. I said, especially if you said that you're taking me into a COVID section of A&E and you're putting me in there and you've not even tested me.
And you did end up going there.
They put me in the A&E part.
How long did you stay?
As I went into the COVID section, I told them this time, because I said, why are you crying? I said, because I'm a nurse. I said, and I can't switch off this time. From being a nurse and being a patient. And when they're talking around me, they were talking abbreviations. I understood it all.
Right, okay.
And they said, they said, so your test has gone missing. We're going to do some other tests. And I said, why? And one of the doctors was saying the tests are coming back fake negative. And I said, how do you mean? He said, some of the tests, we know that the patients have got it, but it's coming back negative, so we know what this was way back now. I think they've only just said it now on the news. I think Boris has had to say that there's 16,000 tests that came back negative that were actually positive. Boris had to make an announcement. So the doctors were seeing this. And he said, as doctors, we've been told to look with our eyes, not with what we've been told with our paperwork. He said, we've got to take our knowledge as doctors in and say, you have got a checklist. We're seeing you. You're in front of us. You have got this. And he said, so we're looking with our eyes and we know you've got it. But what will tell us is if we do this blood test. And I said, why? He said, because we need to know if you've got a clot or something on your lung. So we're going to do a D-dimer test. And if it comes back elevated, you may have a clot on your lung. And all the COVID patients, or the majority of them, have had a D-dimer elevated, which is, if that test comes back, it's something abnormal in your body. It doesn't mean anything else other than something abnormal. So I was like, okay, then a D-dimer test. So I was waiting for that. At that time, I just sent out a prayer request and I didn't care. I put it on my Facebook public. I put it on my other page public, my food, all the business, anything that I'm involved in. I just sent it out. I didn't have pride and I didn't have shame. I knew that I was in a serious life or death situation. And I sent it to family members who go to church in America and everywhere. And I said, send it. My name is this is what I need, and I need prayer, and this is what it is. Because people were hiding or almost embarrassed if they knew that they had it. They didn't want to share. I wasn't. I was like, I don't want to go and not come. I've got it. Pray for me. And I normally pray for a lot of people, but the trauma of fear broke my body down and started to feel very weak. So fear doesn't really affect your immune system because the rapidness of my immune system causing me to shake in fear. And I thought, this is not good for me because I'm now getting ill from fear. And then the doctors came back and all I heard them was saying that her D-dimers is elevated. And if they're elevated, she's going to have to stay in a COVID ward upstairs. And I can hear them talking. And I was like, oh my God. And I just bawled and I was just crying. They said, we'll put you in a private room. And they was like, what's wrong with you? Calm down. I said, I'm a nurse and you're telling me that I might have a clot on my lung, a PE, they were saying P, which is a pulmonary embolism. And I knew someone who had died from one before. So I was like, in my head, I was like, this is not good. This is not good. I was just crying and crying and crying. And people were sending me texts and two more texts that I can read. But the audios I was playing and they were praying for me and talking positiveness. And then they put me on the ward, AMU, the same one.
And how long did you spend there?
I stayed up that night and I didn't sleep. And I asked the next night if I can go home. I stayed awake because I thought if I go to sleep, I won't make it out. And the ward was transformed to how it was before. It looked like a critical care ward. It wasn't I couldn't recognise the same ward. All the staff were very mature, very controlled, and they knew what they were doing. So in that short space of time, things had swapped. Yeah.
So they eventually discharged you.
Leave. Because the patient near me, unfortunately, who came in, there was two men that came in. One that was being wheeled in before me, young Caucasian. Well, he was probably about 10 years older than me, Caucasian male, and then an Asian male came in after me, and they were on the side of me. So we were looking at each other, all of us thinking, oh yeah, we're in a COVID bay in A&E. Just that look saying, oh, you've got it, have I got it as well? So it was like a silent talk between the patients and I. And then when I went up onto the ward, the Asian man was next to me and the Caucasian man was opposite me. So we were close by in the same ward, but I saw them deteriorate. And the man next to me didn't make it the next day, he died. But he came in, sat upright like me. He was speaking to his daughter on the phone and the nurses were sorting things out. And I was like, he died. And the lady next to me was being told she's got COVID and she has to go home and isolate. And I was thinking, oh, she keeps coming in my bed and coughing. I was like, please, God, I've got to get out of this. And the man next to me, or opposite me, kept walking to the bathroom. Eventually, he couldn't walk. He deteriorated. So I'm thinking, I've been at home coughing, and I've made my chest and my lungs force themselves to be open. I'm not going on a vent because I've got 2 friends who just passed away who were put on
ventilators, which is supposed to take the pressure from the lungs and do what the lungs should do.
But people died from my church that I grew up with in Birmingham that was like helping me in my faith walk. These people were close to me with my faith. I was like, oh my God, am I gonna be like that? And I just felt like I had to go into prayer and talk, and I felt like God said, don't sleep. Because I said, God, if I sleep, will I not wake up? That's the honest way I felt. If I close my eyes and go to sleep, I'm not going to wake up. So I said this. And before I went that day, I grabbed my Bible and my anointed oil, my phone charger and my phone. That's all I took. So I had my Bible, and the doctor's like, is that working? I said, it's helping. I said, I'm going to have to read this. And I read it all night, and I prayed all night. And I said, I'm coming out. I'm not staying. I'm coming out. And I was speaking over my lungs and my alveoli as a nurse, the function and the pneumonia. If it's a pneumonia that's blocking my alveoli and causing a blockage, I was commanding it to move. And I was speaking. I was saying, I've got authority over you, lungs. Work. Breathe. Alveolis be clear. And I was really like, I know it must have annoyed the nurses and them, but it was my life or death situation. And the medical science wasn't working for what I was seeing, and my knowledge as a nurse wasn't working.
We're clearly saying here, loud and clear for people listening, is it's the power of prayer and your faith. Which
for me, definitely. For me, definitely, because I thought I'm not going to make it, and my body was deteriorating. So what had made me get through anything in my past was praying, and I'd been through so much, as I've already shared with you, and more that I haven't shared. So I thought. And because I believe in the power of prayer and spoken words and life in us, and I know from my studies and doing some Bible studies that the word in the Old Testament for breath is pneuma, and that's where pneumonia comes from. Pneumonia. So I was thinking, the breath of the image of God has been affected throughout the whole nation. So I kept saying this, and I was thinking, this is not normal. It's not even in just England. It's everywhere. The human beings have been attacked by something. I don't know what it is, but this is real for me. So I was just speaking and declaring that you will live, you will breathe.
All right, Melinda, I like that part with it. This is real for me. That's what you just said. Those were your exact words. Can I ask you, we're sort of coming to the end now, but can I ask you, what message do you have to people who say, coronavirus, COVID-19, it's fake, it's hoax, it's false, it's not real, none of this. You are somebody who has been through this. What's your response to that?
I've still got people saying that to me, and I have to say to them the same thing that I've told anyone that I do speak to. Something is out there, and it is having a physical effect on people. Whether you have a previous illness or not, it's deteriorating you. It's affecting your body. I had it. It's affected. I have shortness of breath since it's happened. I've made it through this far, but something is out and exists. If you're going to look up things that resonate with you. Don't give yourself conspiracy theories in your mind that doesn't make sense. For me, I've looked up everything that's out there, and I don't know what it is, but I know that something is out there, and something is affecting the human beings and their breathing and their bodies.
Right. So let me ask you, in terms of coming to the end, why do you think the coronavirus and COVID-19 have impacted and affected the black community more, especially within Britain we're talking about, more than, say, Trinidad and the Caribbean and so on? Some of them have had
St. Lucia has no cases.
There you go. And some islands have had cases, but not the amount of deaths in terms of, you yourself mentioned so many people have passed, have died from it.
And they're all from the black community.
Why is it? What's your view on it?
So my view is, obviously our genetics is very different. There's a black gene and there's a white gene, and our genes and DNA make up something different. And for years, they've always looked at our genes being different for some reason, whether we're good physically, faster physically, stronger. There is loads of studies that's gone out there. I know people said that we've been affected because mainly the Asian and the Asian community have lots of shops and they remained open through it. And a lot of Asian and black within the community work in the forefront. That's what they're putting it down to. Whether it's that or not, I'm not sure. If something, whatever's been released in the atmosphere, whatever this is made or designed particularly to attack the DNA or the genes from the Black and Asian community, I'm not sure. But there is definitely
Something
a high
there.
rise that's affecting our community.
Okay, thanks for that, Melinda. May I ask you, if viewers and listeners to this program, Breakthrough TV program, want to get in touch with you,
Yeah.
social media platforms, websites,
Yeah.
please tell them how can they get in touch with Melinda?
So I've got my Facebook page because I started a catering company when I lost my job when I had the COVID, and that's MBM Trinbago Meals, and you can find that on Facebook on the page. I've also got a website that was built for me a few years ago, but it's still up and running, and that's at www.melindawilliamsministries.com. So the details on there, and also I just give my phone number out, which is 077-9255-7204, and anyone wants to contact with me, I'm willing to speak, whether it's about health advice or food or anything really, or an encouragement or mentoring. I am available, and my number's made public.
Right. And I'm going to say, I'm going to ask you, the Trinbago stands for Trinidad and Tobago.
Meal. I don't want to just say I'm a Trinidad chef because we're Trinidad and Tobago.
Tobago, yes.
I was calling it MBM Trinidad Meals, and my sister went, no, it's Trinbago.
It's
And then
Trinbago.
she
Yeah,
was
good
about
on,
to
good
be
up on
MBM.
your sister. Yes.
So yeah.
Not forgetting the Twin Island of Tobago as well. It's
Sorry.
part of the Caribbean.
That's right,
yes.
and it is a registered catering company with the council and everyone.
Right,
I've done
okay.
it correctly.
So viewers and listeners, and plus the TV executive producer Shannon Ricketts will have these going across the screen, so people, if they didn't get to write that all down, they'll see.
Share some of the photos with you if you want as
Yeah.
well.
Oh yes, we need to, so that people can realize how true to life your story is.
Yeah.
The executive producer will put alongside your lovely, beautiful self, how you're looking now, the images that that I saw, they were terrible. Okay.
Thank you.
Melinda, we've come to the end.
Thank
Believe
you
it
so
or not, it was in a good way, and I said this in a good way. It was good to hear your story and for people to hear what you went through.
Yeah.
Some of your early upbringing, your childhood, etc., and then what you've been through in this year in particular. This year has been a terrible year for a lot of people, but more so for you. People out there are still having coronavirus, having COVID-19 from the Black community, etc., lockdown, pandemic, and so on, and you're living proof that hey, somebody can, because there's still no known cure. We have vaccines being talked about, but it was through faith and prayer and the power of healing, prayer, etc., which brought you through. And here you are able to talk to me on Breakthrough TV's Our Health is Our Wealth show. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, and I just want to say, even though I said I want to take medicines and stuff, I was determined to take those 3 courses of the antibiotics, so I must have needed it. And I know that they say there's no cure, but those antibiotics must have stable my body a bit more to help me push through. And I think when you get to the hospital and you're a patient and you get to some serious bad news in your life, you get the doctor say to you, there's nothing else that we can do but pray. I think that sometimes before it gets to that stage when you're getting bad news that someone's not going to make it, to be told to pray, I think people should be praying and speaking to the Creator if they can from now before it gets worse. So that's my advice to anyone. Now is a good time to dig in and humble yourself and find that faith, because it's what's going to keep you mentally stable and your physical body more healthy as well.
And on that note, I once again thank you, Melinda, for coming in. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks to our sponsors, the Afro-Caribbean Millennium Center, Dudley Road, New Style Radio, 98.7 FM, Breakthrough Media Studios, and Breakthrough TV.